Hey there everyone, Mazarok here, and today is the beginner's guide to Vengeance Demon Hunter. So this is for Shadowlands. This will not be covering legendaries or covenants or that sort of thing. This is strictly a beginner's guide of getting to know your stats, the passives that you get and all that fun stuff, and kind of just a general guide on how to play the spec. Before we do get into that, please like, comment, subscribe. This channel has been growing like crazy, and I cannot do it without people like you, the community, who have just been so incredibly supportive. And it's honestly been blowing me away. Thank you so much, everybody, for that. Let's keep that pace going, and let's keep growing. I stream on Twitch if you'd like to watch that. There's a link down below. As well, there's a community Discord link. If you have any questions, if you want to get a hold of me, or if you got any sort of thing to ask, is a great positive place to be. Honestly, I love talking to everyone there. If I even have questions, because, you know, everyone's got questions from time to time, like, hey, why'd this happen, or what's going on here? Especially now that I'm progressing in Mythic Raid, where some things aren't always as clear as they should be, and it's just been a fantastic place to be. There is a link down below for that. And if you are looking to join a guild, Bloodstorm, my guild, is actively seeking DPS, healers, anything you want to play. Come on, and, you know, Frostwolf, Vash servers, clusters, there's a lot more to that. It's actually a pretty big server cluster. So if you're looking for a new home, anything like that, we are going to be raiding and all that fun stuff. If you want to, we are raiding now, but if you want to, you know, raid in the future, things like that, looking for a new home, come on by, check that out. So first things first, let's get into Vengeance Demon Hunter. So when we're talking Vengeance Demon Hunter, I do want to talk about passives first, because getting to know these passives is fairly important. One of the passives you get is double jump. You should already know that. You get to jump twice. You're the only class as of now that gets to do that in the game. You have Chaos Brand, so your damage brands the target, increasing magic damage taken by 5%. This is very strong if you're pairing yourself up with magic users, you know, mages, warlocks, those types of things. Shadow priests all love Chaos Brand. And then if we go to the Vengeance tab here, you do have quite a few. Now, Spirit Bomb, we're going to get into that with the talent. But Demonic Wards. So your tattoos reduce all damage by 20%. This is at level 60. You do gain stacks of this going up. Mastery Fellblood. So when you increase your Mastery stat, it increases the armor bonus of your Demon Spikes by an additional X amount of your agility. And it also increases your attack power. These stat weights are going to change based upon how much Mastery you have. Revel in Pain. When Fiery Brand expires on your primary target, you gain a shield that absorbs up to 12,000 damage for 15 seconds based on the damage dealt to them while Fiery Brand was active. Very, very nice. As for your defensives, Thick Skin. Fell energy thickens your skin to demonic proportions. It increases your stamina by 65% and your armor by 100%. This is the passive that all tanks get to make them tanks. This 65% actually does make you one of the largest health pools out of the tanks. Bears can really stack their HP higher, but as a base stamina health pool, you are one of the highest, and BDK actually competes very well with that, if not being just a little bit more above. And then I did skip it for a reason, but let's talk about Shattered Souls. Killing a target will sometimes shatter their soul, leaving a soul fragment behind for 20 seconds. This is important. The soul fragment will be consumed when you approach it, healing you for 7,800 health. Consuming a lesser soul fragment heals you for 6% of all the damage taken in the last 5 seconds. Minimum 1% of your maximum health. Consuming a demon soul will grant you 20% increased damage for 23 seconds. So those are the passives. Now, one of the important ones here is indeed the Shattered Soul ones, because one of the things that you do, you should be doing as a demon hunter, is increasing that generation. So one of the talent, we'll talk about talents, and then we'll get a little bit more into rotation and defensives. So the talent step that I have here is Agonizing Flames. Immolation Aura increases your movement speed, and its duration is increased by 50%. This is very, very strong in all content, especially once you get your 4-piece. Burning Alive is the, Burning Alive is for the Fiery Brand build. I had a mistake in that there. So Fallout. Immolation Aura's initial burst has a chance to shatter lesser soul fragments from your enemies. This is, again, very strong, especially even more so with your 4-piece. I personally run the Spirit Bomb build, but you can run... Spirit Bomb is basically just kind of the way to go. But you do have options here depending on your own play style. Immolation's Aura damage increases the duration of your fiery brand by 0.5 seconds. And Immolation Armor, Immolation Aura increases your armor by 20%, causes melee attackers to suffer fire damage. This is not a bad ability while leveling up, but once you get to 60, Spirit Bomb and Charred Flesh are basically going to be your two go-tos. But Fracture, this is pretty much the only thing you're ever going to pick on this row. Rapidly slash your target for physical damage, and you shatter 2 lesser soul fragments from them every time. And it generates Fury. So you are a Fury generation class as well as breaking apart the souls. So these are the 2 main resources that you need as a tank to live. If you have no Fury and you have no soul fragments, you are in trouble. So these are things that you actively want to be doing. Fracture is going to be one of the buttons that you are definitely going to be pressing probably the most in all forms of content. Quicken Sigils and Sigil of Chains. These 2 here, these are your 2 stronger options. Now, I know I didn't say we talk about Covenants, but if you're Kyrian, just stick with Quicken Sigils. If you're another Covenant, you can go with Sigil of Chains when you feel like you need it. You know, Necrotic Week is a good one. You can just snare everything in and run away, clearing your Necrotic stacks. There's a lot of good uses for Sigil of Chains. Kiting is probably about 90% of the great use, as well as Spiteful Weeks to help any DPS keep the Spitefuls away from them. Demonic is pretty much your only option here. Fell Devastation causes you to enter demon form for 6 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. This is very, very strong, especially with when we get to the 4-piece, which I will be talking in the 9.2 video coming up in the next couple of days. And then on your last row, you're just going to basically be going with Last Resort, which is your cheat death. Sustaining fatal damage instead transform you into metamorphosis form. This may occur once every 8 minutes. The healing off Ruinous Bulwark just really isn't enough to make it worthwhile, and bulk extraction just kind of isn't great. Last Resort is your strongest option because you are one of the... I don't want to say you're one of the squishier tanks, but you are one of the tanks as a Vengeance Demon Hunter that's more susceptible to just getting globaled. So it's something that you need to watch out for, or if you kind of mismanage your rotation, this can proc. And this is just a very nice safety net, while your other 2 talents here are a little bit more weak. So let's talk defensive. Active mitigation is Demon Spike. So you surge with Fell Power, you increase your armor by 1700, this is level 60, and you increase your parry chance by 15% for 6 seconds. This is on a 15-second recharge cooldown, and you get 2 charges. So, meaning, if you're kind of working through your class and your spec, you're only going to be able to have Demon Spike's uptime for 12 seconds every 15 seconds. So you really want to, this is one of the things you really want to manage. Get a weak aura for this. It's very, very simple. You don't want to be stacking your Demon Spikes while there's still another one up, and you want to be rolling them properly. Basically giving it like a second once it's off cooldown, unless you're in trouble, to kind of keep it flowing nicely. This is one of the things that you're going to have to learn to manage with time, but saving, sometimes you just need to save Demon Spikes a little bit as well to kind of keep yourself going and keeping yourself, alive. Fiery Brand. So, brand an enemy with a demonic symbol, you instantly deal fire damage, and you put a fire damage dot over time. Now, what this does for your defensives is the enemy damage, so the enemy's damage done to you is reduced by 40% for 12 seconds. So this is direct damage coming out of that enemy. So you do need to target this properly, but a 40% DR for 10 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown is very, very strong. And none other one of your defensives with the talent Demonic is Fell Devastation. Unleash the Fell within you, damaging enemies directly in front of you for fire damage over 2 seconds. This is a channeled ability, so this is one when you press it, you do want to let the channel go off. It does deal quite a bit of damage in the course of a run, so you don't want to hit a different global like your Throwglaive or something. You want to let this channel through, but after that's done channeling, you're in demon form for 6 seconds. What demon form is Metamorphosis. You transform to demon form for 15 seconds. This is on a 3-minute cooldown. It increases your current and maximum health by 50% and armor by 200%. While transformed, Shear and Fracture generate, this without the Fracture talent is called Shear. So this just encompasses everything in one little nice note. Shear and Fracture generate 1 additional Lesser Soul Fragment and an additional 25 Fury. So while you have Demonic up and you Fracture, you will generate 3 Lesser Soul Shards, and as well you will generate 45 Rage instead of the 25. So a very good thing to do, especially while you're going into the pack, is you can leap in, hit Demonic Spikes, hit Fracture a couple of times while generating. You can put down a Sigil of Flame if you want, build your soul Spirit Bomb, but then when you start kind of running out of that Demon Spikes, you can hit Fell Devastation, and then boom, you have another way to generate more Fury, more Rage. Everything's going quick. You can also just hop in and Fell Dev off the bat if you have the Fury already built up, because Fell Devastation does require 50 Fury to start. So at the start of your first pull of the dungeon, your chances are you're not going to have that 50 Fury to start, so you need some sort of opener there. Very, very strong ability. 2 other strong abilities that are pretty unique to Demon Hunter, which is very, very nice, is the Sigil of Silence. You place a sigil at target location, which activates under 1 second with Quicken Sigils. Boom. Silences all enemies by the sigil for 6 seconds. This is a full everyone group actual silence kick. Interrupt. Very, very strong ability. And this with the Quicken Sigils, this is on a 48-second cooldown. Very, very strong and definitely a good defensive for you. The other sigil that you have is very strong. This is on a 1.2 minute cooldown with Quicken Sigils. Is you place a Sigil of Misery at the target location that activates after a second, again with Quicken Sigils, causes all enemies affected by the sigil to cower in fear, disorienting them for 20 seconds. Now, this does break upon damage, but if you place your Sigil of Misery and you hop out because you need to kite or anything like that, this also acts as a nice group kick, a disorient. They will probably start casting afterwards, but will allow your team to maybe recuperate a kick or two to kick like a priority cast or something. But very, very strong, allows you to kite better. Just to let you, there's certain, like for example in Gambit, if you're running that dungeon at all, the Time Warp Dragon boss, the Pirate Dragon, if you place a Sigil of Misery kind of where the ads are spawning, you can literally just leave them there for 20 seconds, allowing you to aim the dragon a little bit better. Very, very strong ability with a lot of creative uses. A few other abilities that you have as a Demon Hunter that are really good, you do have a Purge. So you do have the Arcane Torrent because you're going to be playing a Blood or Night Elf because that's what Demon Hunters are, but you also have a singular Purge on a 10-second cooldown. So you consume 1 beneficial magic effect, removing it from the target and granting you 20 Fury. This is a good Fury generator. This is a good, buff remover off enemies. And you'd be surprised if you have DBM how often that it triggers where it's like, debuff or whatever. I can't remember the exact thing that it says, but consume magic is pretty strong right now in the current Mythic Plus meta. So all of these things make you very strong. But if you've noticed this video here, there's a lot less buttons. There really is a lot less buttons compared to the other tanks, because Demon Hunters are still the newest tank that there is in comparison to the other ones. So this was after the pruning in Legion. They were introduced in Legion, so they had a lot less abilities. So you have a lot of ways to deal with a lot of scenarios as a Vengeance Demon Hunter, but you have fewer buttons to do so. So one of the important things to know with Vengeance is that you need to be aware, and when you've committed something, you've committed something. When you have nothing, and you are very reliant on other party members or things like that to kick and things like that. But the abilities that you have are crazy strong. Your health as well is going to bounce around a little bit more than, say, other tanks, aside from Blood Decay, but it is not uncommon after a Mythic Plus run. Now, unfortunately, this was a Necrotic week that I was a little tired on this run, for example, and I definitely was not. I was taking way too many stacks and not kiting it anywhere near as much as I should, so the healer ended up out healing me. But very strong, very fun tank to play. Health is a little bouncy, but when you learn to instinctualize when you're in trouble and know when to kite. This is one of the things with Vengeance that absolutely you need to know, is when to kite. You need to kite a little bit more, because when you don't have defensives, especially once you start getting up to these higher keys, you're pushing a little bit more content that's a little bit more difficult for your eye level. You are a little bit more susceptible to getting globaled. So this is one of the things that you have to watch out for, but you're also very strong, especially when you start getting into mob packs AoE. I found I was a little bit more susceptible to dipping lower than I'd like in single target, but in AoE with Spirit Bomb, so you consume up to 5 soul fragments within 25 yards. It brings it right to you, and then they explode, afflicting nearby enemies with frailty for 20 seconds and damaging them for fire damage per fragment used. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, but you will heal for 10% of all damage you deal to enemies affected by frailty. This also includes Spirit Bomb. So in your rotation, you want to be using things like Immolation Aura very quickly, because Immolation Aura's initial burst has a chance to shatter soul fragments. If you have a lot of enemies, that's a lot more soul fragments. You can pretty easily get to 5 without much difficulty there, and use Spirit Bomb. Spirit Bomb does deal a lot of damage, and you heal for 10% of that damage done. So your first Spirit Bomb applies, your second Spirit Bomb, you're healing. And you keep up that rotation going, and you're going to drop from 100 to 50, 100 to 50, and you can keep bouncing around like that. But it is a lot of fun to use. Another way to heal yourself is, especially when we're talking like Mythic Plus here and things like that, is you use Spirit Bomb on a boss, on a single target, but you watch the debuff, and this is not something you spam, you actually use Soul Cleave. So you viciously strike all enemies in front of you for physical damage, and you heal yourself for here it says 1,110, deals damage reduced beyond 5 targets, and it consumes up to 2 soul fragments within 25 yards and heals you for an additional amount for each soul fragment used. This costs 30 Fury. You do not need soul fragments to use this ability, but if you have soul fragments available to you, you will heal more. And you will heal yourself even more with targets affected by Spirit Bomb. So this is where it's kind of effective even in single target, but you have to change your rotation up. When you've got a lot of enemies around you and you're in AoE scenarios, Spirit Bomb is going to be your main lesser soul fragment button to press, versus the lesser enemies that you have. Soul Cleave is going to become better there. Another little bit of utility that you do have is Imprison, so you can just imprison something. This also acts as a kick on certain abilities. So it's humanoids, beasts, or demons. So not all abilities, not all enemies in Mythic Plus and dungeons can be affected by this, but enemies that you do have an extra kick. So you can disrupt, you can Sigil of Silence, but you can also imprison. Now the imprison will break upon damage, but it will stop a cast, which is, if you need the cast to stop and it's your only ability to press that ability. It's I think this is very underutilized by certain tanks, especially if you're a little bit newer. But use what you got. You don't have a lot of buttons to press, but the buttons you have to press matter and are all very, very strong. But my overall thoughts for Vengeance right now is they're in a very good spot. They are a lot tankier than they seem. Their Covenant choices are good. Their tier set is good. I'm going to cover that in the 9.2 video, which is going to be coming out very, very soon, where I talk about legendaries and covenants and all that fun stuff. But this is just the beginner guide, like I had said earlier. So something to look out for there. I think that's really it. That's all that kind of needed to be covered. Oh, one other thing. When you're kiting, use Throw Glaive. Throw Glaive generates high threat, and this is very important because you can actually place a Sigil of Flames away from you and then hit Throw Glaive, and you're still dealing damage at a distance while kiting, letting the healer top you up or anything like that. Well, there's any like enraged mobs or something like that that's kind of dangerous around you. You do have ways to deal damage at a distance, which until you get your CDs back, until you get your Feldev back, or maybe your meta or whatever. But don't be afraid to kite as a Vengeance Demon Hunter. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're having as much fun in 9.2 as much as I am. I hope that you have a lot of fun with this class. The 9.2 guide is going to be coming out soon. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your day.